April, so good to see you. A really important topic today is a trust a must? What every family should know about estate planning. When it comes to estate planning, trusts often sound complex or unnecessary, but depending on your assets and goals, a trust can be a really powerful tool. So let's start big picture. What is a trust?
A trust can be a very intricate part of an overall estate plan. It's a tool, first and foremost. It is not something that's good or bad or right or wrong, but a tool that, if used appropriately, can really help with the administration of an estate and can help bypass probate, can provide some
Mm,
control. There are a lot of situations like when minors are involved, for example, special
right.
needs, where a trust is absolutely necessary to
Mhm.
administer those assets in the desired manner.
Right. So let's drill down into that a little bit more. When does a trust make sense and who might be better off with that one?
It makes sense almost 100% of the time when there are minors involved or special needs. The two I just
Mm,
mentioned a moment ago. There are a lot of, when it comes to special needs, make sure that you're working with an expert in special needs trust, because there are a lot of laws where, if that is not done appropriately and assets go to that individual, it can actually inadvertently disqualify them from receiving certain government benefits. So that's a very big one. Minors, making sure that there are the appropriate parties named in those estate planning documents in the trust to keep those assets flowing to the individuals who you want to control those assets for the minors, who you trust to do so, but also with very specific stipulations as to how you want that administered. Now,
mhm.
when it doesn't make sense, sometimes if you have a very, very simple estate, a very simple overall situation, then a trust might not be necessary. Making sure that you have your beneficiary documents established, and updated will, powers of attorney documentation, that can often be sufficient.
Mhm. And what are the biggest advantages of using a trust? Because I heard you say the word probate, which I feel like to a lot of people is a dirty word. So, what are the advantages when it comes to probate, privacy, and control?
Well, the probate can be avoided in a lot of ways. One of them is with the use of a trust. Beneficiary documents bypass probate. There were some laws that changed in the state of Georgia that now you can actually pass on real estate by a certain methodology with deeds. There are a lot of ways to bypass probate. Probate exists for a reason. Probate in and of itself is not a negative. The challenge and the misnomer comes in, the negative undertone comes in when we talk about the actual process of probate. Right now, for example, in Georgia, probate is really dragging on. I've heard quoted times as long as 18 months. So
Wow.
making sure that there are, bridge assets and certain mechanisms in place to maybe not bypass probate entirely, but at least with some of the assets. It's important for heirs to have bridge assets so that if there are estate costs, when the estate is being settled, while things are being processed, that they have something that they can access sooner than later. That can be done with transfer on death or payable on death forms at the bank, for example, and can be processed relatively quickly. Sometimes a smaller joint bank account may be appropriate for even more immediate access. There are a lot of ways to maintain control over the assets and still ensure that your heirs have the appropriate access at the time they need it as well.
Mhm. And what are some downsides or common misconceptions about trust that people should understand before setting one up?
They can be cost prohibitive, and be cautious about who you work with. Make sure that you vet, I'd say, two or three good reputable local estate planning firms. It is not necessary to spend $5,000 to $7,000 for most situations. I see those quotes frequently. You can get this done really around half that price approximately. So just be very cautious and diligent about who you work with, because it can be cost prohibitive and it is expensive, but it can often be far more expensive not to have these appropriate items in place. Make sure that you know the questions to ask. We can help you with that to ensure that that you don't have a trust recommended for you just because that estate planning firm wants to make a buck. If there are other strategies that may help you get to the same outcome.
Mhm. And so you mentioned an estate plan a couple times. Can you explain that even though if you have a solid estate plan or a trust, why are those beneficiary designations so important and how often should they be revisited?
Beneficiary documents are actually the most powerful document in your estate. And if there is a conflict between the beneficiary documents and the estate planning documents, the beneficiary document will supersede the
Wow.
which a lot of people don't realize. And another thing is that a lot of times when we're talking about estate planning, people think exclusively about postmortem. They don't always think about the importance of having these documents in place in the event of something like an incapacitation, the appropriate powers of attorney for health and finance, things that are needed while you're living. If you're incapacitated in any way, those documents, having those in order, having your successors in order the way that you want those to be listed, and making sure you're updating them on a regular basis is very important. And with the frequency of when to check those documents, life changes on unset frequency. So, maybe an annual check would be a good thing. It doesn't have to be a cumbersome project. Maybe just lay eyes on it really quickly and say, yep, nothing's changed. It's all I need to do. But have that trigger in place annually, because time sure flies by. The next thing you know, it's 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and life has changed and those documents have not changed with it.
Well said. Talking this through with you, April, it's clear, again, you are always focusing on the family legacy, making sure everyone is taken care of. And a trust should be part of that conversation. So if somebody wants to sit down with you and determine if they need a trust, what's the best way to reach you?
You can reach out to us on our website, theretirementfamily.com, or call either of our offices. We're happy to help give you some guidance and even connect you with some good local estate planning firms as well.
Okay. April, thank you.
Thank you, Erin.